Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review, and we dig into the papers this morning. But of course, topical matter, we're getting into the Russia-Ukraine situation. Later on the show, when we start with our big stories, it's one of those we're going to be looking at. And just to give you a bit of a teaser, we all know some 80 years ago about what transpired in Ukraine and why we are seeing some of the scenes we are, a sort of reenaction of the Soviet Union-like development many decades ago. Well, how does this impact us right here in Ghana? We have about 1,000 students there. The Foreign Affairs Ministry has finally reached out with a statement, giving some caution or some advice to our students there. We've heard from the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomarkin, who says, yes, there are calls for evacuation, all well and good, but that is even more reason we need the e-levy. I guess now everything has been added to the e-levy. Roads, security, shoring up the economy, free SHS, and now the latest, if you want us to properly evacuate students in Ukraine, pay the e-levy. We get into those conversations and more later on this show. That's just a teaser. But the Daily Graphic this morning, Russia-Ukraine conflict, safety evacuation of Ghanaians key. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Up until yesterday, I had not heard any response from Ghana, but, well, better late than never. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has expressed concern over the impact of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia on the safety and evacuation of Ghanaians and also on oil prices. In that regard, he has urged students and other Ghanaians in Ukraine to seek help at government's places of shelter. The president said that was to ensure their temporary safety as the government engaged the authorities and relevant diplomatic missions and honorary consuls on further measures. And so those will be looked at, and the government places of shelter include Ghana's mission in that country, other buildings belonging to the government in that country, the diplomatic buildings of countries with whom Ghana has a bilateral agreement to fall on as a safety place, properties belonging to ECOWAS and the African Union. So all of those factored in. Yesterday, of course, on the BBC and Beyond, we heard from some of our students bemoaning all these happenings, and one of them talking about having been able to purchase 2 bottles of water and 4 portions of biscuits, and that was what he was going to hopefully rely on in terms of food, because going out, shops are closed, where to get food and water is becoming problematic. We wouldn't want to be in such a situation. So we pray for those who find themselves there. But there are other impacts of this entire development, and the story continues in terms of oil prices. While President Akufo-Addo expressed concern about the potential loss of lives and the safety of Ghanaians, he was equally frustrated by the effect of the conflict on global crude oil prices and its resultant effect on the economy of the country. And I quote, this means that fuel prices in the country are contingent on the ongoing conflict and likely to negatively impact Ghanaians who, for apparent reasons, are already facing spikes in fuel prices. Well, the prices are already high. Hopefully, we don't get to the point where if this crisis continues much further, we would have that impacting our oil prices as well. In other stories, La Mancha funeral slated for March 7 to 20. Electoral Commissioner's appointment must be competitive. Professor Ajiman Dia says that. And then government pays 16.45 billion Ghana cedis to power producers. That's according to the Deputy Minister of Energy. In the middle spread of the paper, Usubio urges common boundaries between Ghana and the Ivory Coast to ensure peace and security. And on the back page, man butchers daughter, injures wife. All of those in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Well, the Finder newspaper now, and Jinapo not satisfied with $4 million Chamber of Mines donated to Apiate Fund. Bwedu Ewuku Nanabi work hard for NPP. That's according to Ken Japan. And this is the same Kenny Japan who was saying that the entire executive of the party needs to be changed. There needs to be an overhaul because the party is not, they are not living up to expectation. Well, here he is saying that at least John Bwedu, Samia Uku, and Anabi work hard for the NPP. So which one are we to take? Member of Parliament for Asin Central. Oil soars to $105 after Russia attacks Ukraine. And yesterday, stock exchanges across the world fluctuated wildly, falling badly. In Russia itself, lots of falls. There are companies tanking on different stock markets. And Russia itself is going to feel the pinch of this entire development. Russia-Ukraine conflict, Akufo-Addo concerned about safety evacuations and oil prices. And I am very concerned about our delays, our very reactionary measures when it comes to these developments rather than proactive measures. We heard of Ghanaians, in Gambia, the Gambia, slaughtered like fowls many years ago. What happened? Same situation in Libya. It appears we want people to die for the country. But will the country die for us? That is the quick question that we can slot in there. If we are asked to die for our motherland, will our motherland die for us? Will it come through for us when we need it? Those are questions of concern. Let me say a very good morning at this point to Manuel Kranting, who joins the conversation. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How's it going?
It's been quite a week. It's been a bit fatiguing. A few things up in the air that we've been catching, a few bugs in there, but we're still here. We move, like we say. But on the back of what I was just saying, I was having a discussion with some people in our cosmetics department this morning, right before I got here. And yes, it came up. Is it worth dying for this country? We've seen it from, is it Gazy? We've seen it with the athletes. We've seen it with so many people. And sometimes we go hard on, they are not being patriotic and this and that. But, though John F. Kennedy said, it's not about what your country can do for you. It's what about what you can do for your country. But in the end, you still look at the United States, look at his country and what they are doing for their citizens. And so you call on us, do more for your country, like e-levy, pay more.
Yeah.
What are you willing to give me in return? Yeah. That's the way it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you hit the nail right on its head. I mean, it's spot on. Increasingly, as we move by the day, people continue to lose hope in their country, we find ourselves in. At the very least, as we move on, things should get better. We should have even more confidence in our state. The reason you would have people taking the laws into their own hands, for instance, you can talk about mob justice, you can talk about, stifling, stealing money, siphoning money, and all of those things, embezzling money and all of those ones. Of course, there's a fundamental principle of the wrongness in those actions. But beyond everything is what sort of instigates and pushes people into doing that. It's like asking yourself that I have the opportunity to steal 50,000 Ghana cedis or continue taking my, what government says is going to give 7% increment in salaries. Okay, so I take public sector workers. Salaries. I can take 7% increment if I'm taking even 3,000 cedis or 2,000 cedis. 7%.
When Article 71 office holders are getting
exactly. So I mean, there's a picture.
70%.
There's a picture that I'm painting to you.
Yeah.
That if I have the opportunity to steal 50,000, and then I have the opportunity to take 7%, which one? I mean, it takes so much to paint yourself and say that I need to do the right thing. In as much as we're encouraging people to continue doing the right thing, there's also a point that needs to be made quite strongly.
Right.
That people should not be pushed into the abyss of pain and penury for them to have to make a judgment call between doing the wrong thing and doing the right thing. But having said that, let me just take you to the front pages of the papers that I have.
Maybe right before you take us there, I just teased out those issues, but maybe something I'd like you to react to before you get there. Oil soars to $105 after Russia attacks Ukraine. It's the highest since 2014.
Indeed.
And interesting because 2014 is crucial in terms of the timelines of this entire conflict. Ukraine, the Orange Revolution, and the aftermath, and the change in the pro-democratic, setting that came up, and then the pro-West leaning.
Exactly. So I mean,
since that time,
towards
and then Russia becoming belligerent, the Russian bear, and now we see this. You know why I raise this? Because I'm very concerned. The fuel I purchased has moved from 6.9 something to 7.1, then 7.33, and now it's at 8.16. I think yesterday I should have checked. I topped up. I added a tot to my, because Charlie, and
you can't afford to allow the tank to run down.
I was in so much of a hurry that I failed to check whether it had increased from 8.16 yesterday. You know what that means? So if within a short period, it's moved from 6.89 something to 8.16, and all this is happening, it leaves me living in fear because I hope there's no, now the prices on the world market are, and of course, it means that Ghanaian crude, our petroleum, will also attract the same price.
Indeed.
Are you getting it?
Exactly.
So what are we using that to do?
I mean,
to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian, or just, I'm just praying we'll not go to the fuel pumps and very soon we're going to see more increments, because Charlie, right now, I'm
going to react to
unbearable.
that. I'm going to react to that on a lighter note too. I mean, he said he went to the pump, bought, and didn't even notice if there had been an increment.
No.
No.
I didn't say I didn't notice. So I said I didn't check. I was in a hurry.
You're in so much of a hurry.
So I usually look at the board.
But you know what? If your money was a specified amount, then
you have no idea. Yesterday, let me not. But the point is because of my.
But I think you made quite an interesting point to the end. That, I mean, we started the year with a projected, revenue of $62 per barrel. We're now
selling at $90 and the rest.
We're not doing 105, really.
Now it's 105, but we've been doing about 100% on that figure.
Indeed, and you ask yourself that what's the windfall being used for? In fact, there are two levels. You introduce the price stabilization levy so that in the event of incrementing world prices, you cushion the ordinary Ghanaian. Well, we've seen a persistent hike in the fuel prices, but nothing has given.
Right.
In terms of the price stabilization levy, which indeed was introduced for this specific reason, that if the prices increase, then you know what, we will use this to cushion you. But there's even a second leg, a higher one, which now is giving you almost a double of what you had budgeted and projected for.
Right.
So what is that windfall being used for? You are getting...
Well, Kenneth Foriata says the kitty is basically empty. He said that, UTAG and others, you have valid concerns, but we have nothing in the kitty. And we've been told, like I was mentioning, right before you joined the conversation, that Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Deputy Majority Leader, he says, you want us to evacuate? E-levy. You want better roads? You want good security, like we've heard from the Interior Minister. You want free SHS? E-levy.
You can't hold an entire nation to ransom, really, on the back of e-levy. I mean, for all its intents and purposes, really, we could argue for or against the e-levy. But the e-levy shouldn't be the fulcrum, really, around which every conversation that we're going to have in this country will be held. For instance, we want to get married, e-levy. We want to have a show on JoyNews, e-levy. No, we can't do that, really. You get the point that I'm making. I mean, beyond the I mean, what has e-levy got to do with evacuating Ghanaians who are locked up and stranded in Ukraine? Especially because this week, Kennedy Japan, for instance, has told us that a certain member of parliament was flown into the country. In fact, a couple of them were flown into the country to come and participate in parliamentary proceedings with a private jet. In fact, a certain member of parliament was given a certain amount of money to come in and come and vote. I mean, it could or not be true, but the fundamental point is that there are certain overtures that government is, inherently
get into.
You understand, towards setting.
So we can charter a private jet, and this is not even from the minority, it's from the majority.
From the majority.
We can afford to charter a private jet to fly in some 3 people. I don't want to mention names. We all know the 3 of them, 2 gentlemen and 1 lady. we can pay 120,000, and we don't even know what currency, whether it's dollars, pounds, euros, CDs, into someone's account, just to get the people to come in and do certain things in favor of a certain enterprise, aka e-levy. But we can't forecast. I mean, you know what irks my spirit sometimes? The United States, with its intelligence, came through, and yes, granted, we don't have that sort of intelligence here. Even in our local matters, sometimes we are bereft of intelligence.
No, but
so globally, you have the countries with the wherewithal pointing to the fact that this is imminent. What steps were taken before this came up? It takes us on stations like this to bash, so to speak, for students to voice out their concerns before you see a foreign affairs ministry that should have reacted eons ago, now reacting with a statement. And it all looks, I mean, from this end, you look at it and you think, wow. If I were in there, I would be shattered. I would be heartbroken. We spoke to that gentleman, Prince, yes, who came into the country Saturday. Pretty lucky guy.
Yeah, you read a statement and you get a sense that, you're on your own. So, I mean, we are praying for you back here and we're trying to do what we can. But
prayers.
But inherently...
says he has 2 bottles of water and 4, parcels of biscuits, and that's what he's surviving.
Inherently, you're on your own. We're trying to galvanize what we get, we give to you. That's the statement that we saw. And I can't buy the argument of we don't have the intelligence structures enough here because, for instance, you're a member of the UN Security Council. At which level you are exposed to high level, global intelligence. And so, I mean, that is not enough to say that we don't have the intelligence like the US did to have been able to forecast some of these things. But water under the bridge. Now, I mean, the casualties are increasing by the day. Yesterday, Volodymyr Zelensky spoke and said about 137 people made up of military and civilian folks had already lost their lives. And this number is only waiting to increase, at least with the trajectory that we're seeing currently. And so you can't fold your hands, fold your arms and then hope that our folks will be okay as it moves. So now it behoves on us. I mean, over 1,000 Ghanaians, students particularly, who are locked up in Ukraine. There's so much more.
And speaking of those, there are others. I mean, in football, it has affected the chances of
the Champions
St. Petersburg hosting the finals of the UEFA Champions League. That has been changed. We've heard from Giannis Infantino. But in the Ukraine area, we have footballers there as well. There's Najib Yakubu, and pardon my murdering the names, who plays for Voskla Poltava in Ukraine. There's also Rodney Aintree, a Dutch-born Ghanaian. He plays for Inhulet Petrova, and there's Ernest Nyako, who plays for Topside FC Lviv. And all of these as well, I mean, concerns. And for the students, while we've been told they should do this and do that, it's going to be tricky, because even having funds at this point to be able to maneuver your way, some have been told, go to Poland, neighboring Poland. Some have been told, find your way into Russia, and that way maybe you may be safe and all of that.
And I've seen wireless messages being sent by some of the university authorities, directing them to bankers and so on. So, I mean, these are safe houses, for want of better expressions, that people are being directed to go and seek refuge, even as the chaos escalates by the day. And so, I mean, our hearts and prayers are with the folks in Ukraine, particularly the Ghanaians who are living there. And as we speak, I'm told that there are workings of bringing pressure on government towards making a definitive statement on, I mean, with timelines, especially because of how the issues are escalating, on making a pronouncement on the fate of these Ghanaian students. Are they left on their own as it is, find a way to find a, console, find a way to hide or find a way to stay at home? I mean, they have, somebody has 2 bottles of water and you say, don't go out if you don't stay at home. 2 bottles, I mean, really, really. So, I mean, these are concerns that are emanating all the way from Ukraine.
Let's check out some details from the papers.
But I must say that the response of the world, for instance, to the crisis in Ukraine has been quite loud. Yesterday, my monitoring, for instance, Boris Johnson was on the floor of Parliament presenting a statement. The EU had a similar, discussion and so on and so forth.
The United States.
The United States, for instance, has, issued sanctions. Japan and so on. The UK, EU, all of those.
Here's an interesting angle. Of course, there's France as well, but here's an interesting angle. Anticipating this and very strategic. I mean, the Russians, they are being put in a bad light because, so to speak, they are triggering World War III. No one hopes for that. But you would realize that over the 8 years, from 2014 till now, Putin has been organizing stuff. And of course, there have been the changes in leadership and all of that, and his going into a certain position and coming back. But they've been putting certain measures in place to shore up their economy. Their economy is still feeling the impact of this, even on day one. But they have done certain things to ensure, because they have budget surpluses, unlike what we have here, decade upon decade. They have budget surpluses, which means that they can, be stabilized with about $50 billion over a period of months, even if they were to escalate this and continue bombarding Ukraine. But the question is whether they can sustain this after a lengthy period, let's say 6 months to a year, and what it would mean for the Russian economy itself embarking on this. Don't forget, the United States, when it has ventured into Iraq and Afghanistan and even Libya, has suffered the economic consequences, which is why they are a bit cautious about the Ukraine situation, because Ukraine, mind you, is not even a member of NATO. Yeah. So it creates a pot of issues to deal with. But
and I heard Zelensky say yesterday that, the world, the big countries of the world are watching from afar. I mean, that's quite definitive. I mean, if you understand the space of international politics and all of that. I mean, it's a desperate cry for help, made that clearly, that we're suffering here and the big boys of the world, for instance, are watching from afar and we're looking to see what they would do. And it brings to mind how these senior brothers or senior members of the world go up in this muscle flexing contest, which essentially catches up small and little countries in the mix. Now, the reason Ukraine is having to suffer all of this is not because of even Ukraine and its proper context of workings. It's because of the suspicion of what Ukraine's attachment to a certain organization and its allies will do to Russia.
So everything is all cozy until you start making overtures to NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and then all the
everything comes down on you. And so what? Let's do the papers, shall we?
You can do the others. The only one I have left that I would look at is Republic
okay.
Press,
Okay.
Which talks about Adwoa Safo's woes deepening as Bagman denies granting her permission. Was it a denial of granting her permission, or was it a denial that he had said that he hadn't granted?
The latter is. The latter is what actually is, and I mean it's quite tricky, because to say that I have not said that I have not given her permission,
right,
is to inherently sort of suggest that you actually did not.
No,
but that's not what he said.
But you can only infer.
That's what I'm saying.
It is
that's
not
inherently
a categorical
suggesting.
statement.
So, properly speaking, what the man has reacted to is not the fact that he had given or not given permission. He's reacted to a report that he had actually given the lady the permission. And so now there's another leg of verification that we need to do and clarification. Is it just not saying that you had given, or actually not giving the permission to her? And I mean, I think he missed the opportunity to just come clear. I don't know if it is.
Was it that he missed the opportunity, or he intentionally did not want to take or seize the opportunity?
Exactly.
But has she been sacked though?
Well, she has not been sacked.
Because you could be sacked on WhatsApp, you could be sacked on social media. It's happened a few times.
Well, the Daily Guide, You know the Daily Guide?
Oh yeah, I do.
You know the Daily Guide. Okay. The Daily Guide says, Adwoa Safo's fate in limbo. Comes with a picture of the feisty Adjoa Safo. And bloody war breaks out. Putin attacks Ukraine by land, air, sea, cyber. And over 1,000 Ghanaians stranded. Oil price skyrockets. Atu Asian punched over 620 million Ghana CDBOG cash. And Metro Mass coordinator jailed for blackmail. That's the front page of the Daily Guide. On the back page, it says, "We want to leave Ukraine. Brazilian players beg government." We want to leave Ukraine. Brazilian players beg government. Conte weeps for Tottenham. And he says that he can't be seen to be overseeing failure. And Bechem United, I'm so happy. Bechem United grabbed 6 fresh players. And that's on the back page of Daily Guide. And if you're a Manchester United fan, you understand why I'm happy about the woes of Tottenham Hotspur. But the Daily Statement says, BDAC Foundation Family Support Eastern Regional Hospital with dialysis machine. World leaders jittery as Russia invades Ukraine. And housing deficit down by 33%. That's according to the Works and Housing Minister, Francis Asenso Boache, who is also MP for Bantama. Akufo-Addo worried about safety evacuations and oil prices. Now, the Custodian newspaper says Russian-Ukraine war will affect Ghana's economy. Apenyo marking on page 2 of the paper with a picture of the deputy majority leader in parliament. Now, oil hits $104 per barrel, highest in 8 years. Well, it's actually increased by $1 more to $105 just this morning. Deputy Speaker's voting rights. Supreme Court rules on March 9 with pictures of the 2 deputies in the Speaker's space, Jose Usu-Joyce, and then the former MP Andrew Isiama Amwakon. Sack Adjoa Safo to Akufo-Addo. Oil prices hit 7-year high as Russia invades Ukraine. MPs lament fallout on Ghana. New housing data, good news, Asenso Boache. And Professor Ofuria grabs $3 million for GH Genome project. On the front page of the BNFT, banks still lack expertise in agri financing. And this is from Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Bafo. She's an economist and, in fact, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, Department of Economics. New pensions investment directive requires low interest rate to work. That's according to another economist on the front page. In cocoa, though, Ghana losing out on $130 billion chocolate market. And this is why, because we're not producing to meet the world demand. And oil prices soar past $100 as Russia invades Ukraine. So by way of the papers and the front pages, that's what you have. You can grab copies of these for yourself. So, Ben, yeah.
All right, it's a bit of a wrap, but we can't go without touching on your new endeavor, your new enterprise coming up. We're going to be showing you snippets of that. Just take a look.
What's worse, even before she could deal with the psychological effects of the torture and abuse she had experienced at the hand of her caregiver, Mariama found herself trapped in another emotional pressure cooker, her school.
I was hurt after the accident when I returned back to school. Children were afraid to approach me. Meanwhile, usually when I get to school, children run to me. They come and embrace me, but they were afraid. So I had to ask some of them. They told me that this madam said I had an accident and I was mad. I said, really? Do mad people look like this? Then no. I said, I'm not mad. It's just that after the accident, the impact of the accident on me made me not to sleep, and I had headaches.
Gradually, Mariama was thrown into a chronic state of depression.
I can get so depressed as I did. I can get so depressed that to the extent of me even getting up to brush my teeth is even a problem, let alone walking out of the room.
People suffering from mental health disorders and other related conditions are predisposed to depression. This is mainly because of their tendencies to withdraw completely from everyone else and keep to themselves.
And so that is your latest, Manuel. And mental health, something that, on a more serious note, and I'll be very blunt, we don't take seriously in this country. And I guess each man to himself and God for us all. But we need to do more in our social systems.
Indeed. And this piece, Mind Matters, is essentially on the current space of mental health care delivery in Ghana and the sort of abuse that patients suffer at the hands of, the caregivers, at the hands of their family members, their employers, their landlords, the society in general. And so that's what this piece is on, and it's just teasing out the issues and how, for instance, government needs to put attention on that, provide the necessary funding.
Right.
Part of the findings that we saw that the annual budget of the Mental Health Authority is cut by an average of 70%. So you request 100 cedis and you're given 30 cedis on average.
And so we need more, and we keep getting less.
Indeed.
Pointing to the fact that we are not really paying attention to mental health. Look forward to that one. But that's how we wrap the news review this morning. Thank you for staying. Don't you forget, we have a lot more coming your way on the Ukraine-Russia situation and more as we hit our big stories. Up next, sports. Do stay.